let's talk about Miles Robinson. He has a year on his contract. It was mentioned that they're trying to sign him to another 4-year deal,
Mm-hmm.
which I think would be great. You don't want to let
Great
go
for
of
who?
I mean, I think it'd be great. Well, for Atlanta, I mean, maybe not so much for Miles for a 4-year deal, but I think if you can come to terms with a 2-year deal just to get him for another couple of years and see what
Before he
happens.
goes overseas, you're saying?
Yeah. But I think you don't want to just let him go. You've got to figure out a way to keep
Right.
Miles because he's a constant that is going to work. Now, I understand there's the wild card with him coming back from injury and all, but if you've seen the guy running, if you've seen him back training again, I mean, he looks good. Now, it's a small sample size for sure, but it's very encouraging to see the way that he's been running over the past few weeks and kind of just putting out video. I think he's in like Piedmont Park or something, like running around up hills and stuff. It's good to see. Um, but he was asked what his future looked like, and he kind of was like, "We'll see what happens," you know. Um, which is, I mean, from a player perspective, it's not a bad stance to take because if you come out and you do immediately jump right back in where you left off last season, you already, you were in the men's national team as a starter. You were going to be in the World Cup. It's unfortunate it didn't happen, but you've been one of the main constants for Atlanta since 2019, really, when he broke through. And if he can jump right back into that level of performance, I don't I don't think it's going to be long before Atlanta starts seeing plenty of offers come back in for him.
Yeah, I think
You
that's a
don't want
big
to.
thing. Sorry, Tommy. I think that's a big thing is his recovery and his health, and that even though it looks like he looks good in training videos and all that, I mean, we truly won't get a sense of how he's really doing until he gets into game action, whether that be preseason or regular season. So, you know, Miles has come a long way. I mean, it just hurts so much to have him. I mean, I'll just never get the image of out of my mind of him just laying on the Mercedes-Benz turf and
Crunching
just
the
taking.
ground, man.
Yeah, exactly, and it's
Yeah.
so disappointing because
Heartbreaker.
yeah, I mean, but I think he is in a situation where he still has a lot of his career in front of him. He still is in the prime of his career, and so I would argue. I mean, he's just reaching the peak of his career. So I think in the back of Atlanta United's minds is the question: is Miles Robinson pre-Achilles going to be as good as Miles Robinson post-Achilles? So I think that's the situation that's in the back of the front office's mind. They
Yeah.
didn't want to sign a player to a long-term deal that won't come good or won't come as good as he was before his injury because from what I read, those injuries are really tough to come back from for a soccer player. So I think that's in the back of the Atlanta United's minds. But at the same time, you run the risk of letting him walk on a free transfer, which would be a disaster,
Yeah.
especially concerning the quality of player that Miles Robinson has been, not just at a club level, but from an international level as well. So I certainly hope that Atlanta United can re-sign him to a deal, and not just to a deal that makes sense for both parties. And maybe he finishes his career in Atlanta, maybe he doesn't, maybe he does go to Europe, which seems like the most likely scenario. But at the same time, when you look at a player like Walker Zimmerman, who, another national team quality center back who just signed a DP deal with Nashville. Granted, he's not coming off of a catastrophic injury, but at the same time, that's probably he and Miles and maybe a couple of other players are that upper tier center back in MLS. So hopefully the front office makes the right decision based on what to do with Miles Robinson to get the not just the best quality of player that they can expect, but the best return from him should he make that move to Europe as it's expected.
I mean, this injury has caused so many issues in so many fronts. Like, he was just about to become the captain. I mean, he did become the captain of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Got basically an Open Cup game as the as the captain and then immediately gets hurt after that. And that was just a growing thing and another thing for his resume that he was going to be the Atlanta United captain for basically the entire season. He loses the World Cup, and for Atlanta United, you missed an opportunity to transfer him out this window. You know, it's if maybe people did come in with offers, but they would have been very low. And now he doesn't want to sign a contract, which you hate with any team in any sport to lose an asset for nothing. And that's just, you know, something that you got to worry about. And even if it's in the summer, like people still, you know, they're not going to try to bring him on for something that they could get him for free later in the year. So it just messed up so many things, and it's just sad. Ultimately, the World Cup thing was probably the worst. It was the worst part of all of it. But
if he had played in the World
it's
Cup,
good to see him back.
Sorry, if he had played in the World Cup, he would have been guaranteed gone probably in the winter transfer window. Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think you can make Miles a DP though.
No.
I think that's just bad business, and that might be what he's looking for. He might be seeing his buddy over there in Nashville and saying that's what I want, and Atlanta's not in that line of business. I mean, even though we had Alan Franco as a DP for, you know, a hot minute, that's just not what they want to do. So it's our center back situation could look very different next season.
And it depends too, because I do want to pivot to the next little bit as well, talking about center backs. But yeah, like kind of speaking to that point, and then what Bruno was saying. Bruno had said if he comes back to the way he was, we need to sell him in the summer transfer window, or he could be a free agent and go anywhere he wants. And this is, you know, the definition of a club and a player having potentially different interests. I mean, Miles is talented enough really to go to a number of clubs worldwide. The problem is, I think Atlanta would feel a little bit hard done if they didn't keep him, knowing good and well what he's capable of, because they lost essentially almost a full year of prime Miles Robinson talent. And considering how bad the team was defensively last season, you got to think, and how close it was to them making the playoffs. If Miles Robinson had been there, you know, we probably having a different conversation right now about the playoffs. I'm not saying they would have went and won the cup, but I think a couple of extra points here and there from those late minute, you know, stupid giveaways and losses or draws would have probably gotten them into the playoffs. And so it's unfortunate because, you know that Miles is as big of a talent as he is. He can go where he wants to. And he is in a bit of a position now where he can say, look, you know, there is precedent set in terms of Walker Zimmerman, like you were saying, Tommy, up at Nashville, where he got signed on as a DP. I think the only alternative is to hire him not hire him, but keep him on at the max deal that you can without him being a DP. And if he doesn't want to take that, then yeah, you need to get something for him in the summer transfer window.